Although we can manually add almost any effects we can think of to our textures when using Substance Designer's node-based toolset, it is sometimes nice to have the work done automatically so that we can focus more on the artistic aspect of texture creation. One tool in Substance Designer that does kind of do this is the water level node. Making sure we are focused on the number 15 water level pin in our graph then, let's double click on that node so that we can take a look at its many options. In the 3D view, we will need to make sure that we can see the reflection of the sun in the already present water, just to help us see exactly what is happening as we work with the options here. And so, I will be moving the camera in and out of the view as well as rotating it throughout this exercise. Hovering the mouse cursor over the node, you can see that it is using pretty much all of the graph in order to affect the material in a realistic way. So we see that the base color, normal, roughness, height, and ambient occlusion flows are all being piped into here. The first option we come to on the node itself then is the actual water level. As we raise this value, we raise the water level, with the node reading the height and normal information so that more of our texture becomes covered. As we lower it, of course, the opposite happens. For this material, I think that a value of 0.28 should give us the ability to see what the rest of the options do. Next, we have the water darkness slider, which we will come back to. Edge wetness and edge wetness distance are tied together as they create the illusion that the water has already been in contact with the surface, or that it is soaking up the water. Edge wetness, as we increase it, makes the surrounding texture look darker, an effect that we can really see in the center of our texture. Let's leave this set at a high value and then lower the wetness distance parameter, which is self-explanatory as it controls how far out from the water's edge this effect travels. As we lower the value, the darkening effect, which also affects the roughness map in order to make it look wet, becomes tighter. Again, for this material, values of 0.8 and 0.45 should do nicely. The next controls that we will look at can be best seen in action if we increase the water level to 0.6, and then frame up on the text. With the water darkness set to 0, the water would be crystal clear, and we normally would be able to see right through to our original texture, although this still has all of the reflectivity of water. This is brilliant for simple effects such as water in a sink. As we raise the value though, we essentially muddy the water or make it look deeper, something that we can really see happening in the 2D view. We do need to note, of course, that some of the other water level parameters are now affecting what this slider is doing, such as our sludge and frost settings. As the water here is covering stone, and so would probably have dirt and even debris floating around in it, we can use a value of 0.47, which as you can see, makes it harder to see through the water. Looking at our next two controls, the deeper the water level value, the more the node will use this depth blur effect. Let's set this and its opacity value to 1. And as you can see, details now start to become blurred the deeper the water supposedly gets, with the opacity option being a fine-tuned control that can be used to get things looking just right. 0.4 and 0.6 will do fine here. The next two controls act in a similar way in that they create the illusion of sludge on the texture surface, again based on the water's depth. If we lower the sludge depth, you can see that it starts to disappear, removing itself from the highest points in the texture until we get to 0, after which it starts to remove itself from the lowest points as well. Opacity can again be used as a fine control, and its color can be set using controls akin to those that we looked at in the gradient node. As we increase the next control, frost, you can see that the roughness and opacity of the water change, and we get the impression that the water is freezing from the edges, or the shallow points of the water first of all. Once we get to 1, we have frost all over our water surface. The intensity control sets how opaque or solid the frost appears, and the crack slider, as we set this to 0.9, adds some nice crack detail to the frost. So, although for the most part pretty self-explanatory, just seeing the water level node in action has hopefully helped us see just how easy it is to add this kind of detail to our textures, rather than trying, as noted in the intro, to build these effects for ourselves from scratch.